Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. And welcome back. We got some serious case business to attend to today. I'm very glad that you're here and with us on this Papusa Tuesday. You know what we're talking about today. The illegal alien gangbanger deportees are the subject of much of the show today because they're putting up a fight and the judges are helping them out. Now, not until we go through this one will we get to the interrogatory battle, but we're going to start the day with a voicemail transcript that came out from the ACLU to the court in Texas. And the judge was not happy about it. As we know, ex parte communications, where you're just communicating with the judge, trying to not really alert the other side or copy the other side on the conversation, a little private chat with the judge, not allowed. Can do that. And the judge is not happy about it. So the judge out of Texas wrote this scathing response to the ACLU lawyer. We'll read the transcript. The judge published it all and said, "Ooh, you better not do this again. Boy, you're in big trouble." So we'll go through that. We'll see what's happening there. We've also got this congressman, Maxwell Alejandro Frost, putting that on the screen. I know. He said that. It's a congressman, not me. Get it off the screen. We'll go through that. We'll see what Hakeem Jeffries had to say with these other Democrats who I think, yeah, I mean, they look kind of alike. Anyways, we'll come back to that. We got that going on. Anyways, all right, we got that. We got Caroline Levitt coming up. Before we turn our attention to the discovery battle, Judge Zenus, this is the Kilmar case, and Judge Zenus, fresh out of the oven this afternoon, just dropped this order and is coming down to try to settle this battle that is brewing between these two sides. As we know, we've got the gangbang lawyers who are here representing Kilmar, wife beater, human trafficker, illegal alien Abrego Garcia versus Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Secretary of Homeland Security. That case has been brought here. The gangbang lawyers coming in to try to help Kilmar. And remember, the Judge Zenus ordered discovery on this, said, I want to know where Kilmar is. What are you doing to facilitate his return? And then what are you doing in the future to bring him back to America? Whatever, okay, whatever her dumb questions were. So she ordered discovery, and that came in the form of demands for documents and demands for answers to questions from Trump, right? In other words, the ACLU lawyers can send this over to Trump, and then Trump has to respond. And so they submitted this joint letter explaining to the judge, we're at a little bit of an impasse here. We're not going to be able to resolve this. So, Judge, you better come in and rectify this. I've got a couple of the exhibits that were attached. So these are the interrogatories, the demands, in other words, from the lawyers to Trump saying, answer these questions about Kilmar. Where was he? Did you give him a pillow? What kind of pillow was it? Did it have goose down in there? And all these, ridiculous things about due process that they just make up and say that is deserved by every illegal alien ever now. So we'll go through that, but we'll ultimately end out with the judge's order that she just sent back down today, moments ago, that is going to explain what the next steps are. So what does Trump have to do, by when, and if they're asserting privilege, explain how that is and all the things. So that's the Zenus case. We'll hear from Van Hollen, who's still getting asked questions about this. Did you know that he beat someone who's a constituent of yours in Maryland? Did you know about that, Senator? We'll hear from him. And then we'll hear from Timcast. Shout out to Tim Pool, man. He was over at the White House. Look at this handsome little devil over here. Little handsome man right there. He's asking questions to Caroline Levitt, and it was a damn good question. And so we'll hear what he said to her on this Maryland man hoax situation that is percolating over there. Then quick updates. We got other immigration cases and deportee cases. This one was out of the Southern District of New York in Tisch territory. And in Tisch territory, there was a hearing today in front of Judge Hellerstein. And guess what? He's saying that there's going to be a lot of due process. There's going to be a lot of notice. And they're even going to get a list of pro bono attorneys who are going to help them solve their cases. So lawyers who will work for free, obviously coming from the ACLU and the Democratic Party. And we joked about this like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, all right, what do they want? A list of ACLU lawyers who are going to come and represent them for free? Yeah, judge just granted it. It's actually coming real. So we'll go through that. Inner City Press reporting on that. There was another update out of Colorado because they're nuts over there. Remember, they tried to throw Trump off the ballots over there. Like, yeah, kick him off. The Colorado people are crazy. But anyways, they also came back down, District of Colorado, and they issued a new order where they said they're going to get 21 days notice now, too. 21 days, so 3 weeks to go get gangbang and ACLU lawyers out to help them on the case. Now, Republicans are perfectly fine with this, okay? So I know it's infuriating. I know we're here all going, because it's just irritating that we can't enforce the law when we won the election and we have judges insurrecting the will of the American people. Pretty frustrating. But the Republicans are leaning in on this, and I think the Democrats are starting to inch away from it. I saw a post today from Senator Van Hollen, and Van Hollen came out and he was talking about Earth Day and environmentalism. He's like, it's also Earth Day today. You're like, Earth Day? For what? Kilmar? How much fuel did you burn going to hang out with MS-13, weirdo? We got to save the planet. You were just down there with some dude who is affiliated with a gang or judicially adjudicated to be a member of a gang that murders people. Save the planet. Give me a break. So Republicans are leaning into it. I think they're starting to inch away from it. They're like, oh, he beats women. Oh, that's not so good for us. Oh, yeah. So they're figuring that out. Meanwhile, Todd Blanche is saying, we're going to go and continue our deportations. And so don't even worry about it. Lots of stuff there. In fact, they arrested a bunch of Tren de Aragua folks for all sorts of various charges. Can't wait till they come out and they say, oh, these are just barbers too. Barbers and hairstylists. Here for a better American dream. Okay, got it. So bunch of great stuff to get to today, my friends. Very glad that you're here and with us. We had an amazing members only stream this morning where we talked about a bunch of other good things that we couldn't get to here, including that Supreme Court case on the books in those schools. And we listened to those oral arguments today with Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, and you could kind of feel it. They were kind of icked out by the whole thing because it's disgusting. And we'll see what the Supreme Court does on that. But we talked about that this morning, members only stream. We have great members only streams. We'd love it if you joined us. We go live 12 noon Eastern on YouTube and on Locals. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to have 50 more members coming tomorrow, courtesy of Mock Schnell. See, that's how amazing it is. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. 50 more members joining us tomorrow. So amazing. We have great member streams. We also stream on Saturdays, and it's a lot of fun. So check it out. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you don't want to join on YouTube. Otherwise, join on YouTube, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. All right. So without any further ado, let's get into business on the day, because we've got this fun little development here. An ACLU lawyer gets destroyed by a judge in Texas. You see, this case is coming out of the Northern District of Texas in the case of WMM versus Donald J. Trump. And this is related to the AARP case, which was not the American Association of Retired People, but were other individuals who were saying, you can't afuera us out of the country. They got ACLU gangbanger lawyers on their cases, and then they filed in Texas. And remember here, they also filed in this similar case in DC in Judge Boasberg. Then they leapfrog the Fifth Circuit. Then they went right to the Supreme Court and more. And the Supreme Court issued a stay and said, don't deport any more people until we come down with further orders. But what happened was, right in the aftermath, while all of that was going rapid speed, and we covered it yesterday. So they filed in this court. They told this judge, you got 42 minutes, okay? We're asking for a stay. If you don't get back to us in 42 minutes, then we're going to appeal this puppy, because we're going to consider that a constructive denial, and a denial is a final order. And we said so. And from that final order, we're going to appeal it to the Fifth Circuit. And they did, right? The judge didn't respond. And meanwhile, they're calling this. These lawyers are calling this judge. Judge, you better file this. Get it. All the things. We're going to read the voicemail in a minute. But the judge's like, what the hell are you talking about? You don't order me to do anything, punks. So then they went to the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit laughed them out of there. They said, you gave him 42 minutes downstairs, 42 minutes? That's ridiculous. And then suddenly it went up to the Supreme Court, and Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts and Judge Gorsuch were all like, well, actually, we'll grant a stay. For Lord knows why, Judge Alito came out yesterday and obliterated that, said, actually, we're pretty sure this is illegal. You guys said so yourselves like 2 weeks ago in your other orders, and now you're backtracking on all these stays. So it makes no logical sense. But anyways, all that's going on. This judge from the lower level court came out and he just shredded this ACLU lawyer. He says, listen, As the court mentioned before in a prior docket filing, the court received an ex parte communication from an attorney representing the petitioners, the gangbangers, on the evening of April 17, 2025. Well, all this was happening rapid speed. 42 minutes, judge, or else. Now, consistent with the code of conduct for federal judges, an ex parte means they're just calling the judge. They're calling the chambers. They're trying to communicate with the court without notifying or involving the other side, right? If you're talking to the judge, practice is you communicate with the other side. You say, hey, this is what I'm going to tell the judge. If you file a motion, you copy them. In fact, in many cases, before you file the motion, you send a courtesy copy to the opposing counsel and say, hey, this is what I'm going to file. What's your position on this? And they say, well, no opposition. We'll see what the judge does. Or I oppose vehemently. Here's why. Or I agree. I concur. Set a status conference, whatever. But here, they didn't do that, right? They just called the judge and they filed this stuff immediately, 42-minute demands, and the phone calls too. What the hell are you doing? You guys know better than this. Everybody knows this. Now, consistent with the code of conduct for judges, and this comes up a lot too, people say, well, how did the judges police themselves? Well, they have a code of conduct. They kind of got to follow it themselves. And if it's substantial enough, right, Congress can impeach them, but otherwise they're kind of managing themselves, right? It's a real serious situation of we investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong, which is why we get judges like Judge Merchan, Judge Engeron, Judge Beryl Howell, Judge Zenus. Now, in relevant case law regarding ex parte communication, so I'm going to follow the rule, says the court enters this order to provide all parties, including Trump and us, the American people, with the contents of the ex parte communication that the court received. Should any of the parties believe that a response is necessary, you may move and ask for permission to file that. Now, as a general rule, substantive ex parte communications with the court are prohibited, not allowed. ACLU gangbanger lawyers. The rules governing judicial ethics prohibit judges from engaging in substantive ex parte communications concerning pending matters. Quoting another case, saying ex parte communications may be fraught with peril, and judges must take great care with respect to ex parte communications, even in the most exigent of circumstances. So it's always an emergency, okay, to be clear, always. Your Honor, we have to, all day long. Filing, putting out fires, that's basically what the practice of law is. One fire after another. You're right, somebody comes, I got a warrant out. Somebody, well, this happened. This is constant, right? So you're always going to the court. Your Honor, my client needs this done like immediately, or if someone's going to die immediately. Okay, better be real serious if you're going to contact us. Now, the Code of Conduct for the United States judges explains that judges should not permit or consider ex parte communications, quote, or consider other communications concerning a pending or impending matter that are made outside the presence of the parties or their lawyers. That's Canon 3A4. Now, even when circumstances may require such communications, the canon, the rules, limit such communications to situations where the ex parte communication does not address substantive matters, and the judge reasonably believes that no party will gain a procedural, substantive, or tactical advantage as a result of the ex parte communication, right? So if you're calling and demanding, like the judge, do something now because now, that is going to result in a benefit to your side. Totally inappropriate. Now, if let's say there's something illegal going on, or something that is beyond the ordinary scope of things, where you can't just request a hearing for it. Even an emergency hearing, you can file emergency request, request for a stay, and all the things. We've seen it here many times, but that's not what happened. It says the ex parte communication from attorney Lee Gellert. Lee did this. Counsel for the petitioners does not meet this narrow exception for doing what he's done here. Now, the voicemail that he left addresses substantive matters, with Mr. Lee Garrett informing the court that his clients at the Blue Bonnet Detention Center, he says, oh, Your Honor, clients at the Blue Bonnet Detention Center are being given orders to sign alien enemy orders and told they may be removed as soon as tonight or first thing in the morning. Voicemail. And this is related to the Alien Enemies Act, and he gives us the whole attachment. In fact, let's just jump over there and read what he left on the voicemail. Here's the official transcript from this gangbanger lawyer. Lee Gellert says the following, calls a court, which is pretty bold. Hi, this is Lee Glorent. I'm a lawyer at the American Civil Liberties Union calling about an emergency in the AARP case in Peter versus Trump. My phone number is 646 Loserville. It is 7:30 p.m. tonight. So this ACLU lawyer says, and we understand that our clients at the Blue Bonnet Detention Center are being given orders to sign alien enemy orders and told they may be removed as soon as tonight or first thing in the morning. This is related to the Alien Enemies Act. We would like to talk to the judge immediately and have the judge issue an order to have them not removed. The judge's understanding today, in his opinion, was that the government's representations would keep the proposed class safe. It appears that they're being asked to sign papers for their immediate removal. Thank you. Again, it's 646 ACLU losers. Thank you, period. Wow, that was horrible voicemail. So that's a certified transcript, and that voice is an accurate recreation of how pathetic and low T that individual was. So as you can see, that's what the judge got, and you can imagine if that ends up on your voicemail. Wow. Pathetic. You're like, who? Who is this? Don't ever call me again. That's an order. All right. So the judge continued, and in his response, he said, so that weird person left this voicemail. He says, this is related to the Alien Enemies Act. He says, Mr. Gallant further stated, he says, it appears that his clients are being asked to sign this document. He also asked to talk to the judge immediately. I want to speak to your manager or have the judge issue an order to have his clients not removed, says this judge. Now, these communications go directly to the substance of their first motion for a TRO. You already asked for that, dorks, in your prior motion, and the subsequent motion for the same relief. Now, in discussing substantive matters, seeking to talk to the court immediately, and alternatively seeking to have the judge issue that order, the court believes that Mr. Gallant, the ACLU whiner, could have gained a substantive advantage in the proceedings by obtaining a TRO and a procedural and tactical advantage by making the request off the record ex parte in the evening, right? Totally inappropriate to do that. Now, he left this voicemail, even though the court earlier noted and ordered the petitioners to explain why they should not be required to provide notice to the court, right? He already issued a prior order. Hey, file your paperwork and explain yourselves why I should grant this under the rules. And 65B. Now, the petitioners did not file the brief. I ordered them to file it. They didn't do that. They didn't explain anything under the rules. Instead, they provided notice to the acting U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Texas, Chad. What's up, Chad Meekum? Now, the court thus notes that the lawyers had not established prior to the voicemail any reason to believe that the ex parte communications of any kind were appropriate at all, right? It's like a matter of last resort or anything. Now, in light of the rules governing the ex parte communications and the substance of the voicemail, the court notes for the record that it will not permit or consider the voicemail. Now, the judges are further instructed under the rules that if a judge receives an unauthorized ex parte communication bearing on the substance of the matter, the judge should promptly notify the parties of the subject matter of the communication and allow the parties an opportunity to respond. Saying when a communication like this relates to some aspect of the trial, the judge should disclose this to everybody. Now, the court therefore enters this order notifying the government of the contents of the voicemail. The court did not return Mr. Gallant's whining phone call and did not otherwise have any ex parte communications with the petitioners or their counsel. Attached to this order is a transcript of the voicemail, and we read it. Should any of the parties believe that a response is necessary, they may move for leave to respond. Signed by Judge James Wesley Hendricks, U.S. District Court Judge out of Texas. And that was a lot of fun. I can't believe that dude sounded like that. But let's see if there's any other updates on this case as it stands right now from the recent filings. Let's see if there's anything that dropped today. More recently, that is the order. Okay, so that's the latest. So we haven't seen anything else come across from Trump or whether, they'll ask for sanctions or any more information or anything like that. I doubt. But that attorney got put on blast. Don't call that. Why are you guys trying to cheat? You know how to file paperwork. Why are you trying to call and cheat and harass the judges? And what other judges are they doing this to? And do other judges have the same ethics and follow the same judicial canons and code of conduct as this judge does? Or do they just kind of delete those voicemails? Or do they just follow orders? Yes, Normeisen, I'll do whatever you say. Yes, happy to follow your orders because I'm not a real person. Is that happening? We don't know. But we'll, of course, keep our eye on that one. Now, Congress people, this is Maxwell Alejandro Frost, who is apparently on X certified as a congressman from Florida. And he posted this earlier today. Effing with my gang gonna get you spilled, which sounds like a threat or something. Sounds very inappropriate to me. And this was posted earlier on X. Let's see if it's still live there. Yeah, it's still live. It's pretty wild. I don't know what the deal is with that. Is that a real thing? Pretty interesting stuff. Okay. So I guess I saw that. Now, I guess they're getting a little MS-13, energy. They're hanging out with all these gangbangers. That's what they're posting on the webs. I think it's a real thing. I think I saw that. It's like certified from that dude. Anyway, it's not appropriate for him to be saying that, but they're trying to figure out what to do and what their messaging is. Yeah, the DEMS-13 is the new name of the gang. DEMS-13, right? DEMS-13. DEMS-13, I think is what their new party name. So here's the leader of the DEMS-13 Democratic gangs called Hakeem, talking about this with some other liberals.
And I think it was one of the main reasons that we lost the 2024 election was that we let hundreds of millions of people stream across the border. So what is the Democratic plan to show people that we're serious about this problem?
Well, we definitely have to be clear that we believe that we should have a secure border. That's first and foremost. And I think we've repeatedly endeavored to make that clear throughout this Congress. We were slow to act as an administration and as a party on the southern border crisis, and it hurt us not simply with traditional Republican voters or swing voters, but in some segments of our own base communities and in communities of color, including right here in New York.
Whoa! Illegal immigration. Look at him. He knows he's in trouble. He's got that little smirk on his face like, oh, I'm in trouble. Illegal immigration hurt communities of color. Get out of here, man. Is he going to put on a MAGA hat in a minute? All right. And so I think somebody corrected me on this. It's an old post. Got it. All right. So it's a 2016 post. Get it? Got it. So maybe he was MS-13 before he was even hanging out with MS-13. Got it. So it's an old post. That's why it's being resurfaced right now. Got it. Okay. So I don't know what it was response to, but man, those Democrats are hard. They've been gangster for years now. Didn't even realize it. All right. So here we also see that the press secretary called Caroline Leavitt says, what we're doing here is working. Okay. The border was a disaster under these Democrats. Hakeem Jeffries should be doing cartwheels about this. He was just excited as can be. We should get the border under control because it's not so good. Well, guess what? Trump did. So put your MAGA hat on.
At the border, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to make America safe again. The Wall Street Journal captured the Trump effect in a recent article. Border crossings grind to a halt as Trump's tough policies take hold.
True.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection recorded its lowest southwest border crossings in history in March, and we're seeing the same successes at our northern border. Here's how the New York Post put it. Northern border sector previously overrun by illegal migrants sees dramatic drop in crossings. We haven't seen anyone since November, end quote. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, just 54 illegal aliens were apprehended in the Swanton sector of our northern border, which stretches more than 300 miles in March. This is a drastic 95% drop from the more than 1,000 border crossings that were caught in March 2024. This is a main hotspot area that recorded more than 80% of all apprehensions along the northern border during the 2024 fiscal year. And new reporting from the Washington Times fully highlights the difference in Joe Biden's disgraceful approach to the border compared to President Trump's. Under Trump, border catch and release has dropped 99.99% from worst Biden month. You can't get much better
than the vaccine.
That. This statistic in particular is astounding. Border Patrol agents caught and immediately released 189,604 illegal aliens into the United States in December 2023, at the height of the Biden border crisis. But under President Trump, Border Patrol agents caught and released only 20 illegal aliens into the U.S. in the month of February. Thanks to President Trump, operational control of the border is becoming a reality, and the administration's historic enforcement measures are yielding huge results. Illegal aliens are finally getting the blunt message. If you cross the border illegally, you will be swiftly deported and never return to the United States of America. Efforts to arrest the criminal illegal alien invaders are continuing to ramp up. ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of predatory sexual assault of a child in Cook County, Illinois. This week, ICE Denver arrested a Mexican national convicted of sexual assault of a child in Houston County, Texas.
No, they're barbers.
ICE Miami arrested a Nicaraguan convicted of aggravated battery in Hillsborough County, Florida.
Another
ICE
barber.
Houston arrested a Salvadorian national convicted of attempted sexual assault of a child and escape in Dallas County, Texas. And ICE Chicago arrested a Mexican national convicted of aggravated sexual abuse of a minor in Illinois. Despite the Democrats' insane objections, President Trump will continue to embolden law enforcement officers to arrest dangerous legal alien criminals and keep our communities safe.
Yeah, and Democrats just nominated them all for Congress. So David Hogg is going down there right now with the rest of them to get them signed up to run in California, New York, and Chicago. So we'll see where the Democrats go from there. But obviously, the numbers speak for themselves. We appreciate actual competency in securing America and protecting America's borders. Thank you, Caroline, for the update. All right, so good details on that ACLU lawyer who just got obliterated. Now, let's talk about the Kilmar case, because we've got a new order from the judge, but let's brief this one up a bit. A discovery battle is underway in the case of Kilmar. We know that Judge Paula Zenus is presiding over this case out of Maryland, and she has ordered discovery, this process whereby the gangbang ACLU lawyers and their compadres can demand questions be answered from the Trump administration and demand documents be provided to explain what happened with Kilmar and the rest of the deportees who are afuera out of our country under the Alien Enemies Act. And remember, she wants to know specifically, like, what's the terms of the deal and the contract? And she was demanding answers to those three questions. Where is Kilmar? What are you doing to get him out? What are you doing in the future to get him out? And all these questions, blah, blah, right? Demanding updates on those. But what we'll see here today is a battle afoot. So the plaintiff's position, the gangbang lawyers, are saying to the judge, we need all of this information, all of these questions answered. And in response, Trump has submitted and said, actually, you're not going to get a lot of this stuff. So we'll see what this battle looks like as the back and forth continues. But remember, we had declarations. There were updates that were supposed to be provided to the judge. And Trump and the Trump administration have responded with another declaration. This came out over the weekend. And they said, here's the latest. Now, I am giving you an update, Judge, about the physical location of Kilmar, and I'm able to give you a partial update. We know that Van Hollen, the senator, gangbanger lover, went to El Salvador, and our embassy reported that on April 17th, he had been transferred from CCOT to a place called Centro Industrial in Santa Ana about 8 days before that. Abrego Garcia told Senator Van Hollen he'd been placed in an administrative building outside of Centro Industrial in a room of his own with a bed and furniture, and that he was not in a cell. Sounds nice. Signed by the Trump administration, going in, notifying Judge Zenus about that. Then the following day, on the 21st, yesterday from the recording, a little bit more of an update. Says, same thing I told you yesterday, but here's what else I've got for you. Telling us on April 20th and 21st, our ambassador requested an update from the El Salvadorian government about the physical location and the custodial status of Garcia. The Salvadorian government responded that he's being held at Centro Industrial Penitentiary Facility in Santa Ana in good conditions, in an excellent state of health. Kilmar's fine. Okay, so all the Democratic senators who are so worried about him can just relax. Now, we've got this battle for these materials, and the judge entered in a confidentiality order. And so we're not going to spend much time on this. I'm just flagging it for you to say, look, when this discovery is happening, when they can go and demand questions and answers from Trump and documents from Trump, we're going to keep this all confidential. And so that got signed by all the parties. You see Drew Ensign sign this. The lawyers from Sullivan are here. And they were, there's a lot of ACLU gangbang lawyers around, but looks like this case got handed off to some other firm called Kin Emanuel. And they're out of New York, 9th floor, 5th Avenue. So I don't know if the ACLU passed it off to them or what, but they're the gangbanger lawyers. So that is the confidentiality order. Now, there was this battle that occurred. And so let me just show you the back and forth on this. Again, don't want to spend a lot of time on it because they'll explain what's happening in the letter. But this is Trump's objections to the discovery demands. Okay, so the judge said, you guys get to go and demand all this information from Trump, which is insane because she's not the president. It's the executive branch. This is Alien Enemies Act. This is foreign relations and international affairs, all are within the purview of the executive. And so Trump says, look, all right, look, they sent us a bunch of demands for a bunch of garbage. We've made a diligent and good faith effort to comply, but we are objecting to a lot of this. First of all, we object to the definitions of you and your. See how this is going to go? We don't even like those words. You and your, we object. The time frame, we object to those. We're not going to give information before these dates. We've also got privilege, okay? We're not going to give you any of this crap either because it's all privileged. So get out of here. So here are the questions, right? They said, describe with particularity each action you, is what they're asking, have taken and when to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvador. Give us these answers. We object to this. It's a false premise that we can or will or have any ability to do any of this. And so we object, right? Same thing's happening here. Describe with particularity how you have taken and facilitate his return to the United States. We object to this. It's for attorney-client privilege. We're not giving you any of that either. Okay, so this is a pattern that goes on for the remaining 15 pages or so, telling us, say, what's your plan in the future to release him from custody? And again, right, they're not asking to effectuate his return, but to facilitate his release from custody. We object. We're not in control of El Salvador. We can't do anything over there. What are you going to do to facilitate his return to the United States? Again, we object. This is state secrets, deliberative process. We're not going to give you any information on this. We've already told you if he does come here, then we're going to detain him again. We're going to take him into custody. We're going to remove him to a third-party country, and we're going to hold him because he's designated MS-13, and he's gone. All right, so the same pattern goes on and on for the remaining interrogatories. Now, they also made a demand for documents, and that was submitted here as Exhibit B. They said, all right, you want documents? Great. We've made a diligent and good faith effort to obtain these documents, but we're objecting to a bunch of things. First of all, privilege, time frame, and more. You want documents that you're not going to get. These are based on the false premise that we can control his release. A lot of the same stuff is being mirrored there, right? And this is the perspective that we always were expecting to see, because the same reason Trump did what he did is the same reason he doesn't have to give them any of these things, right? It's within his power and his prerogative as the president, the commander-in-chief, empowered by the Constitution and Congress when they passed the Alien Enemies Act. It's still good law to this day. So again, the documents are all being battled over, but let's go back to the letter. So both sides then, they got to send this letter into the judge. And they say, all right, here's our joint letter on how discovery's going. It's not going great. So they write from the gangbanger lawyers. They say, on the eve of the first court-ordered deposition about Trump and the government's failure to comply with these orders, Trump responded to our discovery requests by producing nothing of substance. Its document production consists entirely of public filings from their dockets, copies of our own discovery requests. Okay, so they just like what they got sent, they just copied it and sent it back to them. Oh, you want to know what's in our file? Here's in our file. It's your documents. We sent these to you. Well, it's what's in our file. You wanted copies of it, so here it is. And 2 non-substantive cover emails transmitting declarations filed in this case. Nothing. They got nothing. We already have copies of these. Well, now you have another one. Its interrogatory responses are similarly non-responsive. This court granted expedited discovery. You did this, Judge Zenus, to ascertain what, if anything, Trump has done to actually facilitate, right? See how that word effectuate is not in there anymore because the Supreme Court got rid of it. And lying Democrats like Chuck Schumer and that other woman we saw yesterday, I think that's how she identifies. I'm not sure. She also said the same thing. I'm in El Salvador to facilitate and effectuate. That's not what the Supreme Court said, you liar. We should read it or don't speak out of turn. Release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. Now, that was a Supreme Court order. But by the way, this case was not fully briefed because Judge Zenus made that deadline by midnight. So this was like an emergency stay. And the improperly sent thing was a red herring. That attorney who made that false argument was fired from the DOJ. It wasn't improper. By operation of the law, and we covered this at length yesterday, and you can see the research files at watcherlodge.com. In this operation context, the Alien Enemies Act and the proclamation and designation of MS-13 as a terrorist gang under the Alien Enemies Act overrides the order of withholding, the withholding of removal to El Salvador, which was issued by an Article 2 judge. Guess who's the Supreme Court of Article 2? Yeah, that's right. The president is. And the president authorized Pam Bondi and Homeland to make that proclamation, and that settled the matter. The immigration judge, who's Article 2, not Article 3, got overruled by operation of the law. And you can look up the U.S. Code at watcherlodge.com. Now, the court specifically stated that the plaintiffs are entitled, this is what the gangbanger lawyers say, to explore the lawful basis, if any, for Garcia's continued detention in CCOT, and including who authorized his initial placement there and who presently authorized his continued confinement. This is Zenus. Now, the discovery responses from Trump this afternoon established the government intends to prevent us from developing this discovery that you ordered, Judge. First, Trump and the government artificially narrows the court's order to avoid complying with it. For example, they say they refuse to respond to our questions it claims are based on the false premise that we can order El Salvador to do anything. The Supreme Court said you have to facilitate, they said, they have to. It said facilitate the release from custody in El Salvador. It sounds like he is. Sounds like he's got a rocking chair or something. You know, he's just cozied on up with a Snuggie down there in El Salvador. Says, likewise, the government refuses to provide any information predating April 4th when he was handed off, even though this court held that the gangbangers are entitled to more. Like this, who authorized, right? Answer these questions. Who authorized Abrego Garcia's initial placement in El Salvador, which began on this date? The government refuses to provide any documents concerning the legal basis for his confinement. What? And there's multiple court orders. And the government maintains that the information, any information regarding the agreement between the United States and El Salvador is irrelevant, despite the court's finding that they're entitled to explore the basis for this. So, right, this is what the discovery is for. What was the deal with El Salvador? The government's rights under any agreement governing Abrego Garcia are without question relevant to what we say and we need. And finally, the government is refusing to provide any information about the so-called diplomatic discussions with Bukele, despite the Supreme Court's direction that it must be prepared to explain the steps it has taken. They did explain the steps. Yeah, that's the point. They did. Now, if it's unsatisfactory, then the Supreme Court can correct that and give us some more guidance on it. But they gave us a paragraph to work with. Second, and they also said in all of this that you owe due deference to the executive branch, none of which has been provided by Judge Zenus rhymes with. Second, the government refuses to answer several interrogatories, they say. Trump's not answering, or to provide documents based on categorical assertions of privilege, saying there's also deliberative process privilege and more, state secret privilege, governmental privilege. They've got no foundation for this. Despite invoking the state secret privilege 13 times in response in all those interrogatories, the government has not submitted a formal claim of privilege or otherwise identified any basis for this. They have met and conferred with the government about these requests. They met on April 19th, just days ago, at which time the government said, no, we have no issues with respect to the substance. No, like they had a meeting. The government's like, oh, sure. Yeah, no, we'll get you that. Sounds good. Yeah, no problems with that. The party stated no issues, and they scheduled depositions to occur on April 22nd and 23rd. And then the gangbang lawyers are also inviting the government. Like, can we meet again? Can we meet again? Can we meet again? To investigate the scope of the discovery, deadlines, and more. But they declined. Like, you know what? We met with you once. We don't need to keep meeting with you. Thanks for calling, though. Trump then also rejected their proposed protocol refusing to disclose their search parameters when they're searching for data, and refuse to provide any documents or even commit to a timeline before doing so before the hearing today. On the eve of depositions, and now, after all this, we got served with incomplete and deficient responses. It's like it's a giant bureaucracy. They're doing the best they can. It's the government. They're slow and terrible at complying with anything. At the plaintiff's request, the parties met and conferred at 7 p.m. tonight, at which time the government stood on its currently deficient discovery responses. Like, we gave you what you need. Enjoy. Third, Mr. Mazzara will be deposed tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. And we respectfully request the court hold a conference after his depo at 1 p.m. to address discovery deficiencies or anything else that's coming up. So that's what the gangbang lawyers have written. They're not giving us what we want. Here's what Trump says. All right, Judge. Now, as an initial matter, Trump and the defendants have, in all respects, and in light of the expedited nature of this discovery, put forward a good faith effort, right? This is going very fast. Like, give us some time, for crying out loud. We've put a good faith effort to provide appropriate responses to both the interrogatories and your request for documents, okay? Consistent with the Supreme Court instructions, we're doing what they told us to do, and the questions posed by this court. The discovery here is aimed at answering the following. The current location and custody of Abrego. We've answered that. Steps taken to facilitate his return. Answered that. Can't do much. And what steps we'll take to that end. And they explained, if he shows up, we'll just arrest him and deport him again. But he'll be in the United States and we'll deport him again. So plaintiffs' objections to the initial expressions of the objections based on scope and privilege, like all their screeching we just read, is all misplaced. We have appropriately incorporated the more general objections where appropriate. So first of all, they're complaining about privilege. They say it's ridiculous. The suggestion that we're required to disclose attorney-client privilege are not well received. We're not going to do that. Instead, as they admit, the assertions of privilege were not equally applied to all requests. So some things we said were privileged and others were not. They even admit that. Not all privileges were invoked for each response. So don't act like this is some blanket privilege proclamation or something. We're working with you, so stop your crying. And further, there is no reason to believe that matters of attorney-client privilege would be more responsive to the request, meaning we have to give it to them. More to the point, we nevertheless provided specific responses to their questions and documents to the extent privileges were not applicable. Now, they don't appear to challenge those specific privileges. They're just kind of complaining about all these things. You want a privilege log, which is all coming. We said it was coming. They're complaining there's no log. Well, it's coming. We said it was coming, but all this is expedited, so give us a minute. Now, as to their few complaints about the responses, like we got emails and whatever, that also falls short. The insistence on examining the legal basis for Abrego's confinement is an absurdity. Upon Abrego's repatriation to El Salvador, his home country, his detention was no longer a matter of the United States confinement, a matter belonging to El Salvador, which has already been explained to them repeatedly. Any requirement of a more detailed response by us would be wholly inappropriate and an invasion of diplomatic discussions. And so your insistence on information regarding an agreement between the U.S. and El Salvador, even if the court permits the inquiry, begs the question on whether an agreement exists, and more importantly, does not relate to the particular efforts undertaken by Trump to facilitate or effectuate Abrego's release. Now, indeed, their insistence on obtaining any information on diplomatic discussions is a facially unwarranted and inappropriate intrusion into the diplomatic process, the executive branch, a matter which the Supreme Court said was our province. But nevertheless, we did respond, and we report that in its discussions with El Salvador, serving the purpose of the requirements, we've given you updates. Indeed, Trump, at the appropriate moments, gave greater detail into the specific efforts undertaken to work with El Salvador to permit Abrego's return to the United States, and said as soon as he shows up, we'll get rid of him again. Now, next, the gangbanger lawyers also suggest that the government has refused to answer questions or to produce documents based on privilege. Now, that statement is at best misleading to you. The defendants here, Trump, provided specific responses to each question, and the forthcoming privilege log, which we said we'd get to you, is going to explain why. And plaintiffs make no suggestion that we have not provided specific answers to questions within the scope of discovery that's not even protected by privilege, and so we're following the rules to the T. And we thank the court for your attention to this matter. So all of that signed by all the parties, Kin Emanuel and More Osario, Andrew Ensign, and the immigration team over for the DOJ. So all that then goes to Judge Zenus. We've got the updates, we've got the back and forth. They can't agree on any of it. Judge Zenus just came out and issued an order fresh out of the oven today. So here's what she said. All right. Pursuant to this court's letter regarding the discovery stuff, the gangbang lawyers, Judge Zenus says, have notified the court of seemingly intractable discovery disputes that require immediate attention to remain on the expedited discovery schedule. Remember, she's like, we're going fast. All this is going to be done in 2 weeks, she said. To facilitate this just and expeditious production of the discovery, the court rules on Trump's objections to the interrogatories and the production demands. She writes, first, Trump objects to certain discovery because they say that the demands are based on the false premise that the United States can or has been ordered to facilitate the release from custody in El Salvador. She says, well, Trump and their lawyers well know that the falsehood lies not in any supposed premise, but in their continued mischaracterization of the Supreme Court order, which is wild because she's the one that's mischaracterizing it. Okay. And this is the problem with Judge Roberts and the Supreme Court. If they would have just come down on a side, they could have settled all of this. But now both sides can declare victory. She says the Supreme Court is a clear victory for her, which you could agree. You could read it and say, yeah, there's a lot in there that's good for her. You could also say there's a lot in there that's bad for her and says, mind your business, stay in your lane, and act with due deference to the executive branch, which obviously she's not doing by ordering discovery of a co-equal branch of government. Totally ridiculous. So she then is just going to reclaim the argument and say, no, my interpretation is right again. If the Supreme Court could have been clear, they could have settled it. But now they're just causing a mess. She says that order made clear that this court properly required the government to facilitate, but not effectuate, the release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure his case is handled as though he was not improperly sent to El Salvador. But again, the case was, he was not improperly sent to El Salvador. The case was just not fully briefed. It was a last-minute stay that was ordered because the judge issued a 12 p.m. midnight demand that he be returned or else. So they had no choice but to wake up and grant that stay. But he wasn't improperly sent, okay? There was plenty of power there, as we've already explained. An Article 2 judge, an immigration judge called David M. Jones, who's an immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice or the executive branch in some capacity, issued the order that was overruled by operation of law. Now, Trump's objection reflects a willful and bad faith refusal to comply with discovery. Oh, what are you going to hold him in contempt, Judge? Let's see. The objection is overruled. Trump is therefore ordered to supplement their answers in full compliance. So answer these questions. Their answers must include facts responsive to their requests, not oblique, incomplete, non-specific characterizations. Like, what are they going to write? Just no. Like, we're just, okay, here's more information. What else do you, here, it's, what are you going to force them to write? All right, equally specious, Trump's objections on the grounds of privilege are also rejected. Big surprise. Trump invokes in name only a range of protections. Now, as Trump and their counsel knows, a proponent of privilege must demonstrate a basis for the protection. These are wild times because think about like the presumption of normalcy, right? There's a good faith benefit that's given to the government, right? Pre-Trump, if you sue the government and demand anything, they just laugh at you and say, get out of there. Here, she just laughs at Trump like it's a total reversal because they've commandeered and eliminated the presumption of normal operations in the government and good faith basis from a co-equal branch of government. It's pretty sick. Now, given that the court expressly warned Trump and their counsel to strictly adhere to their discovery, she said, because in fairness, Mr. Drew Ensign, if you're not going to answer the question that they put within the scope of the orders, then you'll have to justify why. You'll cite privilege, you'll follow the rules, and I'll make the determination. She calls them boilerplate, non-particularized objections. presumptively invalid. And although they say we're willing to meet and confer, their repeated refusals to meet and confer about much of anything shows this was not in good faith. Nor does the court find that their protestations regarding the abbreviated timeline persuasive either. You have sought refuge behind vague and unsubstantiated assertions of privileges for weeks now. You've known since at least a week that this court requires specific legal and factual knowledge, but you continued to rely on boilerplate assertions. Judge Zenus rhymes with is not happy. That ends now, she says. If Trump wants to preserve their privilege claims, they must respond in detail, no later than 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Supplement your answers and explain what your privilege looks like. Now, Trump also says the scope of this is ridiculous. And she says this is arbitrarily cramped reading of my order. It's rejected. I want everything. The time immediately preceding Kilmar's lawless seizure. He was an illegal alien in America. We were allowed to detain him on March 12th. And his transport and confinement in CCOT. This is particularly relevant to his custodial status today because they're entitled to discover everything about what you guys did. Now, Trump also objects that discovery is outside the scope. Court overrules that too, saying we want everything, namely what steps you've taken to facilitate his release and to ensure it's handled as though it wasn't improperly sent to El Salvador, and he was properly sent there. The areas, so in other words, they're complying with that. Oh, well, this case was handled properly, so we handled it appropriately. Got it. Now, the areas are also relevant and probative as to whether Trump has made good faith efforts to comply with this order. And is she going to do anything about it or just issue more orders? So the answer to interrogatory 5, they identify only Robert Cerna and Evan Katz. Now, given the context of this, they must supplement their answers. Give me more names. And the answer here is also evasive. You said there's a conversation with a representative. Supplement. Give us more information on that. And you must also give us information about the arrangement or the contract, the understanding, whatever it is, between El Salvador and the planes who were carrying illegals back to that country previously. And you must also answer number 12. This is limited to the efforts the government Trump has taken to facilitate the return of aliens wrongfully removed to El Salvador. Now, the request is relevant. What are you doing to bring them home, says the judge. Answer question number 13. You must respond to this, and you must complete factual basis for your assertion that he's a member of MS-13. Oh, well, Judge, that's already been decided by other judges, so-called immigration judges. In 2 different proceedings, he had a full appeal on that. Defendants' relevancy and scope objections are rejected. They particularly previously articulated in their daily updates, their custodial status and more. But you can't invoke the moniker of MS-13 and then object to follow-up interrogatory. So answer that. And you must also answer question number 15 to identify the role of every U.S. official or employee with knowledge of the facts alleged. So she's in charge of the entire executive branch, at least as it relates to alien enemies, it sounds like. I want to know everything, who's doing what and when, where's the power coming from. Based on the foregoing, Trump's objections are overruled. Now, you must narrow interrogatories by 9 and 11 and send responses by 8 p.m. tonight. You shall answer everything and respond to all outstanding discovery requests by no later than 6 p.m. tomorrow. Signed by Judge Zenus, rhymes with United States District Judge. So Trump better get answering those questions by tomorrow night, or else what's she going to do? Hold him in contempt too, just like Judge Boasberg? All right, do it. All right, Trump can just pardon everybody else again, and you guys can just continue to cry. But you can see she's not even, I think, understanding what's in the record already. Like, she should just look up Kilmar or just watch the show. We've talked about 2 court documents, 3 actually, right? Because even David Jones was commenting about that, saying he's not asylum. He's had plenty of due process on this, was found to be removable, and the MS-13 in many ways is a red herring. So that is what came out from Judge Zenus, and we saw this question being answered by Senator Van Hollen. Did you know this dude was a wife-beating, human trafficking, MS-13 gangbanger illegally in America?
Were you aware of Kilmar's domestic violence on his record and human trafficking
As I
concerns?
said, everything should be presented to the federal district court.
Which is what they want. They want every illegal to have their day in Article 3 courts, not Article 2 courts, which is how it's set up, which is how the law works, but they'd like to smuggle that into the Article 3 courts under due process so that it could be virtually impossible to deport 15 to 20 million illegals in our country. But Caroline Leavitt got asked a great question by our friend Tim Pool over there in the White House, baby, representing alternative media. He's there showing up, asking a very great question of Caroline Leavitt. Shout out to the Tim Pool team, Tim Pool and the crew, and to Caroline Leavitt for answering the question and taking it today. Questions about the fake hoax Maryland man.
Many of the news organizations that are represented in this room have marched in lockstep on false narratives, such as the Very Fine People hoax, the Covington smear, and now what's being called the Maryland man hoax, where an MS-13 gang member adjudicated by 2 different judges, I believe, is just simply being referred to as a Maryland man over and over again. Now, in an effort from the White House to expand access to new companies, you've created this new media seat. So I'm wondering if you can comment on, following this expansion, you've had numerous outlets disparage the companies that you've had sit here, as well as the reporters. I'm wondering if you could comment on the unprofessional behavior, as well as elaborate if there's any plans to expand access to new companies.
Sure. Well, we certainly welcome diverse viewpoints in this room, which is one of the reasons we have you in here. And there's many new faces in this room in comparison to the previous administrations. We want to welcome all viewpoints into this room. We welcome unbiased journalists who really care about the truth and the facts and the accuracy. And you rightfully pointed out the Maryland man story, which I, from this podium, when the Atlantic published it on that very first day, I came to this podium and said, this is wrong. The press in this room have this story wrong. And we have seen more and more evidence come to the table that we have had all along. We were always right. The president was always on the right side of this issue to deport this illegal criminal from our community. And it is despicable to see the media continue to refer to this individual as someone who is just a peaceful man living his life in Maryland. This was and always has been an illegal criminal, an MS-13 gang member, and a designated foreign terrorist. And the administration maintains our position to deport these individuals from our community. So thank you for being here, Tim. It's great to see you.
Great to see you, Tim. Representing in the White House. Pretty cool. So shout out to them. Shout out to Caroline and the Trump administration for making that happen. Very nice to have some other voices in there asking questions that matter. So as you can see, Judge Zenus ordering some discovery responses to be provided by the Trump administration. I'm sure they're working overtime to get back to her. The clock is ticking. We'll be back here to see what she does when she's inevitably disappointed. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now we're not done yet. One more update on the day. And this is also a curious one. Yeah, here's the story. A federal judge now gifting illegal alien deportees access to pro bono judges. To pro bono lawyers, rather, not judges, but the judges might as well be pro bono working for them anyways. But the pro bono lawyers, free lawyers for illegals is where this is going. We've always had questions about this because we've joked saying eventually due process would be so expanded, according to the left, that they'd get full-blown jury trials, they'd get appointed ACLU gangbang lawyers, they'd get private first-class flights to and from their trials, and red carpets on the way into court, which is basically where this is going. So this is being reported via Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee reporting, and he's telling us that they were inside the courtroom in the Southern District of New York, hearing on an Alien Enemies Act case in front of Judge Hellerstein. Here's what happened. Writing, judge comes in, takes the bench. Simple deportation case. Hellerstein says, all right, what are we doing here? Somebody responds there and says, well, Your Honor, if we don't get an injunction, if we don't get an order, these people are going to be removed from the country immediately. The judge says, well, what I'm understanding here is absent these decisions, people are going to be removed, right? Unless I do something, people are going to go. And we saw the Supreme Court came down, and Justice Sotomayor on the Supreme Court has shown that the preparations the government made to remove people are already underway. So I'm the judge, right, Hellerstein, and I think that there is irreparable harm. It would be obvious if they're removed. That's irreparable harm. The jails in El Salvador are not appetizing, to say the least. The judge's like, I wouldn't want to go there. So why would we send these gangbanging illegals over there? He says, you know, Senator Holland, the judge is writing this, went and made findings about the conditions, and they're horrible. This judge, but judge, it's not, no one cares what your position is on these foreign jails. They can deal, they're foreign citizens. They can deal with their jails in their own countries. Well, I don't want to send them over there because it's not that comfortable. The Supreme Court freezing things will allow courts to consider these things without the dangers, because you don't want the gangbangers to have a bad back on their cots down there. The DOJ lawyer comes in. Your Honor, the government disagrees with that, okay? Aliens are removed all the time. Aliens are removed every day. We don't have judges considering whether or not they're getting massages before bed. Says Tren de Aragua was formed in prisons, okay? They know how to operate there. They're birthed out of prisons, molded by it. ICE has limited, the judge says, well, there is no indication that ICE cannot handle this, right? He's going to say ICE has limited capacity. We can't store all these gangbangers in all of our facilities. ICE, he says, there's no indication ICE cannot handle this. Our jails have experience with gangs too. So we'd rather have the gangbangers in our jails and our prison guards to avoid further actions against the public. So we'll just keep them here. He says, Your Honor, the DOJ lawyer, Tren de Aragua, they're everywhere, man. They forced Aurora, Colorado to declare a state of emergency. This is a real threat to America. They took over apartment buildings down there. The president was elected on this, and it remains his most popular policy despite all of your efforts to change that. Judge says, oh, what about due process of law? Your Honor, they're illegal aliens. It's a flexible standard that applies to them, right? They are getting provided due process of law. It's not a question of judges like taking an MSNBC talking point. Says, Your Honor, we have a declaration here from Officer Dawson. Now the notices are in Spanish too. They're getting due process, okay? They get notice and they get an opportunity to adjudicate their habeas petition, which is what we've always said was appropriate. Notice, an opportunity to be heard. Trump has always said that's appropriate. File your petition in habeas. They don't want to do that because they want a nationwide injunction to just stop everything all at once. Okay, fine. It's in Spanish too, all right? They're getting notice in Spanish. Well, the INA lays out what the notice should be, says the judge. The Immigration Act. Oh, that's fine if it does, but we're using the Alien Enemies Act. That's another act that was passed by Congress and signed into law. So we don't have to comply with the INA, which has been the point we've been making here, that the INA judges are overruled by operation of the Alien Enemies Act, which was always the right argument to make. The poison pill attorney, Ezra Ruvani, was the individual who said it was an administrative error. Never was. Overruled. Judge says, well, you know, I think what we're ordering here, they need at least 10 days to get counsel. They also get a list of pro bono lawyers. And there must be notice and a hearing. Ugh. A list of free lawyers, ACLU gangbanging lawyers who are going to come in and obviously represent them for free, right? And we were commenting on this, saying it's going to get down to the granular details on this. How much time, what's on the form. You know, pro bono lawyers, at least they're not appointing them. That's going to be the next step. Come appoint, you know, and we're all going to have to pay for it too, America. You're welcome. A list of pro bono lawyers for the illegals. And there must be a notice and a hearing. Now, I don't know if this is an opportunity for a hearing or a notice. Because the other option for the Trump administration, obviously, is to just say, look, man, we can deport you here, or we can hold you in these conditions, or you can go home and just get out of here if you sign this waiver, right? But then the gangbang lawyers are going to try to keep them here so they can file habeas. And if they start filing habeas and we start getting some rulings on these in the right districts, it might put a lot of this to bed pretty quickly, which is why they're trying to avoid that. That's the point, right? They're trying to get class action certifications to stop that from happening, because they know once we get some adverse habeas rulings, once a couple judges say, oh yeah, MS-13, they can go. They took over Colorado. Oh yeah, Tren de Aragua, they can go too, right? They took over Colorado. Then you get those anchored in. Then other judges say, yeah, got to follow that. So Hellerstein, the judge, says, since these people are detained, the need for haste is questionable. You don't have to deport them quickly since you have them in custody. So 10 days is fine. DOJ lawyer says, Your Honor, we don't believe the INA applies here. It's the Alien Enemies Act, so we don't need to follow the 10 days time that's in that statute. Well, Judge Hellerstein says, Your Honor, this is so pathetic. This judge, listen, Judge Hellerstein, who is this judge? I've seen the pictures of the people bent over. How is that any way to treat people? Is a tattoo actual hostilities? So he's just like sympathizing with the gangs down there. And they're being treated aggressively because they're murderers and gangbangers. Is that any way to treat people? And that's their country, right? And he's an El Salvadorian citizen, Kilmar. And I don't know who these people are, but there was a Tren de Aragua indictment the other day that he goes into, says, they were hacking people up and stuff. Is a tattoo actual hostilities? He says, but they can't be removed to a place where their freedom can be taken away. What the hell kind of is, they can't be removed to a place where their freedom can be taken away? This proclamation is contrary to the law, says this lunatic judge. Anything else you want to tell me? We disagree, Your Honor. We believe the Alien Enemies Act is still good law, and the INA is superfluous when that's invoked. Okay, well, I've heard your arguments. I don't care. Just invalidated the whole proclamation. All right, and this is what we pointed out yesterday. I said this is where they're going to hang their hats because their other arguments are terrible, which is that you can't call MS-13 or Tren de Aragua an alien enemy. It's not covered. It's not a government or a nation, is what they're going to say. Again, I think that conflicts with a lot of the terrorism law because terrorism has been the entire, foreign policy of America for the last 30 years now coming up. And how is that any different than that? More people have died recently from MS-13 and Tren de Aragua than they have from Al-Qaeda in America. Judge Hellerstein, well, they can't be removed to a place where their freedom can be taken away. Hellerstein says, I've heard your arguments, okay? ACLU, gangbanger lawyer Gallant come out, and he's the same dude who called in and left that voicemail on the judge, got obliterated for that. So you know what his voice sounds like, but we'll spare ourselves. He says, Your Honor, as you pointed out, there has to be a notice sufficient to contest the allegations. And an English form just doesn't do it. The Supreme Court granted a stay, and so we'll see going forward. Now, we're asking for 30 days notice, just like the Germans got in World War II. Oh, were those the lawful resident Germans who were here? Were those the citizen Germans? Or were they illegally here in the country? Was that the same? They got 30 days notice for being lawful residents. And by the way, right, all the FDR stuff was pretty rough. And like, I think he's kind of conceding then that we can use the Alien Enemies Act because FDR used the Alien Enemies Act to go after citizens of America, passed executive orders to follow up with that. But now they're going to turn around and say the Germans got a notice and opportunity to be heard, but were then removed by their lover boy FDR. What? Hellerstein says, and a list of other lawyers who are available. So, okay, 30 days and a list of other lawyers who are available to help, right? Just give them a bunch of lawyers who are going to work for free, pro bono. Well, we also suggest that class counsel be notified, okay, not just a list. So tell the ACLU too, we're going to be on it. If anybody needs help, the ACLU is going to represent these illegals. Now, they also said, well, Colorado has settled on 21 days. So we suggest 30 days here. Judge Hellerstein says, well, let me go back. Let me think about this. Congress declares war, right? Not the president. And the proclamation implies that Tren de Aragua has been sanctioned, if not more, by the government of Venezuela. And so you can review that. ACLU says, well, I suggest you look at Judge Henderson's thoughtful decision in JGG. He says, yeah, but she was reversed by, that was the Boasberg case. Yeah, but she was reversed by the Supreme Court, says Hellerstein. Well, not on that point, she wasn't. Well, the AEA, when the AEA came out, we were concerned about Quebec, weren't we? Cuts him off. ACLU says, no. We were concerned about France itself, and France was only Quebec. So this is where this is going to go. They're going to say that the Alien Enemies Act is only for defined nation states. Like you could go for it after Venezuela, but not Trinidad. So a proclamation for TDA is invalid. A proclamation for MS-13 is invalid. Now, I think you could go back and find evidence of that. I think you could find evidence yes, FDR invoked this against named powers of World War II, right? Which was, of course, the Germans and the Japanese and the Italians. But he also used this to go after others. I think the Hungarians and others. He even went down to South America and went after people from Peru and stuff like that. So he was really using an expansive version of that. It's not just named enemy combatants, but the judge is even saying, oh, well, what about Quebec? Like they weren't named at war. Or like in Britain, War of 1812, I think they used it for Britain, but that was a named opponent. So the ACLU was drawing this back. No, only for France. He's saying, but it was Quebec, right? So it was kind of an offshoot. It's like ridiculous. The Alien Enemies Act is for those unnamed things that don't fit into the category of war. We can just declare war. We know how to do that. It's already written in there. We didn't need an Alien Enemies Act to declare war on a nation state. It's for alien enemies who don't fit neatly into another category. But this is going to be where they hang their hat on. They're going to try to invalidate the entire thing. Now, judge says, well, I'm going to give you everything you want. TRO is extended, and the case is adjourned. So, great reporting from Inner City Press. Make sure you're following him. Matthew Russell Lee is over there. We're going to repost this at the top of our timeline so you can give him a follow. Look at those margaritas from those two little lovebirds over there hanging out. Now, similarly, you heard them reference the Colorado case. Colorado's crazy. They did the same thing over here. So this was another one filed in the District of Colorado. This is DBU and RMM. I don't know if they're gangbangers or just illegals or what, but the judge dropped a 35-pager that's granting them a bunch of rights. And some might say even more due process than everybody else, which is wild, right? If you're in this category, you get more privileges than other illegals or other immigrants if you fall into this category. So he says, all right, judge coming down says this is a case involving people who fear imminent transfer from this district. Trump is removing non-citizens. And this is an Alien Enemies Act, right? So it's going to be gangbangers. Saying before the court is a petition for an emergency and saying that he's going to make sure they win, and they win this case. Don't move them out anywhere. Here's some background. Trump issued on March 14th a proclamation. The act says that there's power vested in a president, authority to proclaim an invasion. Lots of people have been suing and challenging this, including the Boasberg case, which we've covered extensively. 5 Venezuelans saying they're about to be deported in a different putative class action. We covered this one, the AARP case, where the Texas judge said, no, you don't get an injunction. And the Supreme Court came down with a stay on that one. Now, as it relates to this case, we've got this person, DBU. He says he's got a single tattoo, which bears his niece's name. Oh, it's beautiful. On January 26, days after Trump came in, ICE arrested this dude. At the time of his apprehension, he was attending a party. He said, oh, it's a TDA party. They characterized that as public communications, called him a TDA gangbanger. Agents interrogated him. He denies it. I'm not a gangbanger. No, he's not been criminally charged. He's just subject for deportation. This other person's DBU, detained in Denver. In another proceeding, oh, look, due process. In an April 17, 2025 immigration proceeding, an immigration judge indicated that ICE suggests that DBU has a gang affiliation. There you go. That's due process. You might not agree with that due process. You might not like the outcome, but that is process. Saying there is a grave risk of ICE alleging that he's a member and that ICE will invoke the act against him. So that's why they're suing. This other person, RMN, entered the United States, born in 2000. So the dude is 25. give or take, entered the United States around 2023. Married, 2 children, wife and child live in Colorado. Several tattoos for personal reasons, including 1 tattoo of religious significance. He's extremely afraid to return to Venezuela because he's going to be harmed by groups there because TDA murdered his wife's father and uncle and more, saying TDA is going to murder him too. ICE filed a redacted form in his bond case saying he's an associate and active of TDA, known member of the gang. In support of the form, ICE recounted circumstances of his arrest. On March 1, ICE informed everybody that they conducted surveillance of another individual, not him, for an investigation. Then they say someone left the address, approached other Hispanic males. ICE determined these individuals, including one of whom was RMM, were amenable to removal and more. Sounds like they got a lot of due process there. Form also details search of a Jeep and motel room. He denies any connections to that. Obviously, he's got no prior criminal history or pending charges, other than the fact that he's here illegally. So he's currently being detained. He's pending immigration removals and more. They say he's going to be tortured. He's going to have persecution if he goes back there. Him and his wife deny this. They say he is seeking asylum because he's been persecuted by TDA. So they're currently in removal proceedings in immigration court. And despite lodging allegations contrary to this, they say that they've not been given notice under the proclamation. I say, no, we've reviewed the facts. We've determined he is not subject to the proclamation, RMM. But if we do that, then we'll remove him. Now, consistent with these representations, they say, we've adopted processes and more. The government, before removing these people, gives everybody notice of removal. The notice says any statement you make now can be used against you. The notice clarifies this is not a removal order under the INA, permits you to make a phone call if you want to do so. Here's a certificate of service, making sure you got this. The notice is in English. The government did not give it to them in any other language than English. So what happened is they thought, we're going to get removed. So they filed for an injunction. On April 14th, pursuant to the All Writs Act, the court issued an order, don't remove these people from this location. Everybody filed their responses, and here we are. They say, before we get to the argument, the court first addresses habeas corpus. The parties agreed at oral arguments that habeas claims impose a jurisdictional requirement, and the court turns to the TRO, balancing all of the items, and saying, we are following what SCOTUS told us to do. Accordingly, they satisfied the habeas in custody requirement, and so we're here. So I can handle this case. There are going to be real harms. This is not a harm on presidential powers. And they also say that you can't review this, right? This is one of Trump's arguments. It was judicial review in the Ludecky case and more. So the judge goes through a bunch of analysis. We'll fast forward through all of it. And I want to show you what he issues at the outcome. So he says there's going to be irreparable harm if you remove these folks. The public interest favors them staying here. We've seen many of the same analyses here in the same types of cases. But here is what the order is in conclusion. Colorado judge says, after all of that, same reasons we've seen in other cases, Trump shall not move the petitioners and members of the certified class outside of Colorado. Don't move them to Texas. You shall provide them 21 days notice to members of the provisionally certified class. The notice shall state the government intends to remove them pursuant to the act, must also provide notice of the right to seek judicial review under habeas, and inform them they may consult an attorney regarding their detainment in the government's intent to remove them. It must be written in the language they understand, must be provided, saying to all these people, on all non-citizens in custody in Colorado who are subject to the proclamation. All right. So he didn't say that they get a list of free attorneys, but that you may consult an attorney. Okay. The New York judge was like, give them the ACLU's phone numbers so they can call them and they'll represent them for free. So this judge is not going as far, but he is giving them 21 days. That's a long time. And so the ACLU is just going to be there. And I don't know who's funding these lawsuits, but man, there must be a lot of money going into their coffers. Now, the gangbanger lawyers shall also file an injunction to convert this into that. And more, the TRO, file your responses and more. So don't move any of these people, signed by Charlotte Sweeney, U.S. District Judge out of Colorado. So more notice, more time for attorneys, and more class actions for gangbangers who are already adjudicated, right? They've already gotten process, as you've seen, by ICE in the executive branch, in the immigration silo under immigration laws that are already existing. But they want them to have full hearings under Article 3 courts, because that means you cannot deport them all. If they all get hearings that are they're not entitled to because they're not lawfully here, you don't get to break in and then get access to all the benefits. The enforcement of the law is dictated to the executive branch. Immigration is handled by them. The courts are trying to usurp that away from Article 2. We're not going to let it happen. Now, there's reaction to this from the Republicans. While it might seem frustrating that these judges are doing what they're doing, the Republicans are basically eating it up. The Hill tells us they're leaning in on this. White House and Republicans are not shying away from battling with Democrats over this, especially Kilmar. In their view, it doesn't hurt Trump at all. May even help. Someone said, of course it's a winning issue. Americans support enforcing the law. Common sense tells you this. Polls confirm it. If Democrats want to talk about MS-13 and become the Dems-13 gang, well, we're happy to oblige them, a senior White House official explained. The National Republican Congressional Committee, and hat tip to Bonnie on this for flagging this, House Republicans and their campaign arm went as far as to offer to pay for Democrats and their trips to El Salvador. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, we'll pay for it. Go down there, have some margaritas, some mojitos, whatever you want. As they demanded Abrego Garcia's release on the condition, they live streamed the whole thing and snapped plenty of selfies with your gangbanger Dems-13 members. Going to work on that. We'll pay for the plane tickets. They just can't forget to smile for the camera while they sell out their constituents, says Michael Marinella after they made that announcement. Exactly what some Democrats have been worrying about. Colleagues are sounding the alarm on this. Amy Klobuchar, and you can see who stayed quiet on a lot of this, right? Amy Klobuchar said on State of the Union on Sunday that the White House picked out this case and this man because it's about a subject that they want to keep in the news. Bruh. I don't think so. I mean, they were just deporting people. You guys turned it into something and then suddenly realized, oh, he beats his wife. Great. And Gavin Newsom said, you know, it's the distraction of the day. This is the debate they want. This is their 80-20 issue. You guys won't stop talking about it. Chris Van Hollen, who traveled to El Salvador, met with him saying, I don't think it's ever wrong to stand up for the Constitution, for gangbangers. And Americans are tired of elected officials who are all finger to the wind. What's blowing this way? What's blowing that way? But as Democrats battle over the right tactics, actions from the White House say they're leaning in. Caroline Leavitt said, Kilmar is never going to live in the United States ever again. Johnson leaned in on it too. Today, House Democrats traveled to El Salvador as part of their obsession to bring a violent illegal alien, wife-beating gang member back into MS-13, back into the United States. Could the contrast be more clear? Yeah, here are the polls. April 9th through the 13th, CNBC Hart Research poll. 52% of adults approved of Trump's handling of deporting the illegals. March 27th, 58% of adults approved of Trump deporting illegals. Harry Enton also reported Trump's net approval on immigrations +1, a stark contrast from -12 in the first part of his first term. But there's a lot of nuance to this, and John Kennedy hasn't got his facts straight. Unfortunately, the senator calling the deportation a screw up. It wasn't a screw up, John. It was exactly right. So stop with that. Stop with that. Someone needs to shake the Republicans' heads and say, stop it. It was a poison pill. Who was fired? He was lawfully deported under the Alien Enemies Act, which overrides the withholding of the removal issued by an Article 2 immigration judge. It's like they've never understood the concept between the two distinctions. So that happened. We also see that Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi came out. Todd Blanche posted this over on the interweb, said, under President Trump and Pam Bondi, the DOJ is all in on Operation Take Back America, a bold effort to stop illegal immigration, dismantle cartels, and protect our communities from violent crime. Saying here from Todd Blanche about how attorneys are bringing real results this week. But there is a lot happening. You can see this one was also posted by them. 27 members or associates of Trende Aragua charged with racketeering, narcotics, trafficking, robbery, and other firearms offenses. First RICO charges against the TDA members and their associates. And just to be clear, you don't have to charge somebody with a crime before you deport them, which is also a fake narrative that they're trying to confuse people on. By being here illegally, you are deportable. That's how it works. You don't have to be charged with a crime. You should, maybe, for being here illegally, but we don't always do that. We just deport you without having to process you through the criminal proceedings, because that takes a lot of time. So as an administrative enforcement of the law, we have immigration operating under Article 2. So Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, and the rest of them are going to enforce the law. Here's what Todd had to say about it.
As President Trump took office, the Department of Justice has been all in on Operation Take Back America.
Heck yeah.
A mission to stop illegal immigration, dismantle cartels, and protect our communities from violent crime. Week after week, U.S. attorneys across this country, including the 6 border districts, have charged hundreds of defendants with federal immigration crimes. These aren't minor cases. They involve drug traffickers, human smugglers, repeat offenders, and individuals with felony records. This is what law and order looks like in action. To our U.S. attorneys and law enforcement partners, thank you. Your work is saving lives and making America safer every day, and we're proud to stand with you. Under President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi, this Justice Department will never back down. We will take back America, one case at a time.
Let's go, Todd Blanche. All right, so the battle will continue. Obviously, the judges are doing everything they can to extend their facade of due process over illegal aliens and gang members who are proclaimed to be threats to national security under the Alien Enemies Act and via presidential proclamation. But they're now offering them free attorneys, pro bono lawyers, so that they can just go work with the ACLU to keep them here as long as possible and to stop Trump from enacting the will of the country. It's a judicial insurrection and a judicial coup. We're going to be here to continue to cover it. Thank you for subscribing and joining us as we do. All right, so my friends, if you're just catching up and just joining us here, we had 3 good segments on the day. We talked about an ACLU lawyer called Gallant, who got obliterated for a voicemail that he left on the judge's phone. And the judge publicized the whole thing and said, this is totally inappropriate. You can't do that. Judicial code of canon, judicial code of conduct, and more, and published the voicemail. We read through it. We also saw the judge was very unhappy with it and explained why. We then saw some old posts from Maxwell Alejandro Frost in 2016, dropping some burners, apparently, probably joking, hopefully. But we also heard from Hakeem, who's saying, we should secure the border, and Caroline Levitt explaining that border security is even more effective than Joe Biden's 35 jabs. Incredible. So Rapid Response 47 sharing those. We then talked about Judge Zenus, read through the latest declarations that were submitted in the Kilmar case. We know this is a discovery battle that is brewing right now. Trump is objecting and not responding to the demands for documents and answers for interrogatories. I mean, they are responding. They're giving him the information that they are entitled to, but according to the judge, it's not good enough. So she issued new demands in a new order and gave Trump until tomorrow night on my desk or else. And we know this case is going to just continue to smolder along, and they're going to try to hold Trump in contempt again on this one, just like Judge Boasberg did. And so they're just setting him up for that as we speak. We'll keep our eye on it. Van Hollen knows what he's gotten into now, but this is the party of the Democrats. The Democratic Party is now Dem S13. Dem S13, I think is how you say it, right? Dem S13, I think is the best way to say it. So we got that. We also saw that at Inner City Press in the Southern District of New York, Matthew Russell Lee was reporting Judge Hellerstein super concerned about the prison conditions down there. Like they have to duck their heads, and it seems rough down there. Well, Judge, why don't you worry about what's happening to our cities and our communities? These are non-citizens. They're not here lawfully. They're illegal. They're getting deported. Thanks for your cooperation. So we read through that. We also saw what they're doing in Colorado, giving them 21 days notice, not pro bono lawyers for them, but certainly a list of attorneys in 21 days. We'll see if the Supreme Court does anything about it, but the Republicans, as far as we can tell, are winning on this issue, will continue to win on this issue. The Democrats are so desperate to find something to latch onto, something to give them meaning and purpose for once, that they've attached themselves to a wife-beating, human trafficking, illegal alien, gangbang, and MS-13 member. We'll see how that works out for them. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you, and we'll see what you have to say about all of this. Thanks for being here, and thanks for all of the generosity, supporting our work with the membos, the super chats, and your viewership. We appreciate you. Let's see who's here today. What's up, Donut? John helping away, clipping for us on the afternoon. K Bean and Carrie B were clipping for us this morning. We're grateful for them. We got a bunch of new membos, man. We had a great members only stream this morning talking about the Supreme Court case and that book case. Justice Gorsuch was pretty grossed out by that. It's like, in one of these books, there's a woman in leather. It's like, yeah. Dems 13, right? I think is what it is. All right, let's see what we got here in the house on the day. We got, hey, Rough Round Edge. What's up, Rough Round? Thanks for becoming a member and joining up. Great to see you. Welcome aboard. Very nice. Thank you, Rough Round. What's up, Steel Manning? And thank you, John, for that. That was very helpful. Steel Manning, I wonder how many billable hours before the ACLU coffers go dry. I think the DOJ can create enough cases to bankrupt them. Yeah, I mean, that's the point on this. It's when Trump was on the defense, right? Every dollar the government spent, Trump had to come out of pocket $10 to respond. Maybe it's less than that, 5 to 1, 3 to 1, whatever, but a lot. Same thing's happening now in reverse. So the ACLU and all of the lefty normizins, they can drain all of their constituents and all of their money suing on behalf of gangbangers. Like, go wild, go hog wild. That's fine. It's a shame because they're doing it to their own country and to us. But we'd rather them empty, kind of blow their reserves right now. Thank you, Steel Manning. What's up, James Vickery? Hey, Rob, you are the best. Well, I don't know about that, James. I think you are. The only YouTube channels I watch every day are your channel and Liberty Doll. Well, shout out to Liberty Doll. That sounds like a great channel. Liberty Doll. I haven't heard of that one, but sounds like a good one. So shout out to Liberty Doll. Thank you, James Vickery, for shouting out that channel and for watching ours. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for the nice dono and for supporting us. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. What's up, Juan Sanchez? James Vickery. James. Hey, James just became a member. I was just thinking that, James. Well, you should be a member. Come check us out in the mornings. Thank you for joining up. James Vickery, Membo. Juan Sanchez, Membo. Welcome aboard, gentlemen. What's up, Juan and James? Good to have you both. Mock Schnell. Hey, if you're interested in a great Second Amendment channel, look at Mark Smith. Shout out to Mark Smith's. 4 Boxes Dinner is a great place to go get up to date on what is going on with my opinion, my opinion, most important right. It is a damn important right. Yeah, that's why it's number 2. Number 1, free speech. Number 2, to support the free speech. It's kind of why they did that. Very important combo there. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for the nice dono and the recommendations. What's up, Jennifer? Hey, Law of Self-Defense. Andrew Branca has his first 200,000 YouTube subs. That's amazing. Please show Shane Souza and Law of Self-Defense channel some love. Shane mods over there for Andrew Branca. Shout out, man. Congrats to Andrew Branca. Andrew does great work and super sharp dude. So, especially on the self-defense stuff. That's why his channel is called Law of Self-Defense, like an expert on that stuff. Amazing. So congrats to Andrew, 200 subs, baby. That's awesome. And Shane, thanks for being integral in the part of that. And Jennifer, thanks for shouting it out. Shout out to our friends, Andrew. Go over, sub over there. This old guy, and he was also on Tim Pool. Shout out to Andrew for that. Talking about that other case we haven't gotten to, the stabbing. Yeah. This old guy, if you are a terrorist or have been found guilty of a crime or you have notice of removal, you've had all the due process you're entitled to or will ever get. That's how Obama deported 2 million aliens, and Trump is doing the exact same thing. Yeah, and they're trying to stop it now via nationwide class injunction for the gangbangers. And for some reason, the Supreme Court is indulging in it. Inappropriate. Thank you, this old guy on the locals, for that. Hey, David Notch Son Albright. What's up, David? Dovid in the house. Thank you for becoming a member. Dovid Notch Son Albright in the house. DNA in the house. Good to have you. Welcome aboard. See you tomorrow on the Membo stream, 12 noon Eastern for all our new membos. This old guy is here. There's a lot of evidence that proximity to gang members may be transmitting a virus to the Democrats, causing them to flash gang signs and hold their firearms sideways. Work has already started on a vaccine. Yeah, Pfizer is probably working on something to help the Democrats. They're like, hey, these Democrats have gone crazy. Can we make a pill for this? Like something that makes them fall out of love with terrorist gangbangers, or anything we can do? Like, we're working on it because they need the Democrats to go mandate jabs so they can get rich. If they go crazy, it's not good for their bottom line. Mock Schnell, what's up, Mock Schnell? Hey, just in case peeps do not know what the 4 boxes of our constitutional support are, it's the soapbox, the voting box, the jury box, and if all else fails, the cartridge box. Fortunately, we use the latter only one time. That's a fun framing on it. There's 4 boxes: soapbox, voting box, jury box, and if all else fails, the cartridge box. You know what I'm saying? Sheila Poo, impeach and defund these district judges. This is crazy, especially Hellerstein. It's like, well, they don't get enough blankets down there when they're sleeping in their terrorist cells. Michelle, it would be funny in court filings if based lawyers referred to anyone who hasn't proclaimed their pronouns and seems extra sensitive as they, them, even the judge. Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, well, I don't know, Your Honor. I don't know. I want to be inclusive. So it's nice to see you both today, Your Honors. You just pluralize Your Honors. Yes, Your Honors. Why do you keep calling me Your Honors? Well, I don't know. You might be they, them. I'm not. I'm a she. You are? You sure? Okay. I think I'll just call you multiple still. Hey, what's up? God bless America. Sorry, Rob. Must cut out early. Veteran biker on in 5 minutes. Love your show. Veteran biker sounds better, I'll be honest. Veteran biker show. There's veterans and they're biking. Right? How can that be better? You know. No, I'd rather watch some dude read court documents. I understand. God bless America. God bless you. Enjoy the show. Chat with me. Hey, thank each and every one of you who took a moment of your day to pray for my nephew being found safe and secure. Amazing. Chat with me. That was amazing. Chat with me was on this morning. Nephew went out for a run last night. Didn't come home. Everybody goes, where the hell's this guy? Praise God for his mercy in a positive resolution today. Good news. He just, just went on a detour. Something happened. We don't know. Got him back. Amazing. Sheila Poo. This judge should take a long walk and go for a swim and come back out and reflect on his erroneous ways. Newbie, what's up? Hey, what's up, Newbie? 7 months as a membo. Love the show, Rob. How's the workouts going? They're pretty good. I did legs today. Yeah, I did legs. The one thing that's not great is I still haven't found a gym for jiu-jitsu yet. I mean, I found it, but the times are not convenient, and I'm trying to figure that out. They have some weekend classes. I haven't been able to go lately. Anyway, so I've been in Prescott. I have not found a new jiu-jitsu gym, and it's, you know how it is. But I got other great gyms, and I met a dude from who watches the show. Shout out to Eric at the gym. He said, you know, you look like some guy on YouTube who does things about law content. I was like, well, do you like him? He's like, I like the show. I'm like, okay, well, that's me then. All right, yeah. What's up? So shout out to Eric over there. Good to see you, Eric. What's up? Mock Schnell in the house. Hey, Mock Schnell, bringing in 50 new membos. Thank you for bringing in 50 new membos. We got Daro is here. Let's welcome him in. 50 friends. Yannick, Lee Rocks. What's up, Aaron S? FSU Mike. What's up, One Ranger? Lori McCann. We got Gunny Eye Or. We got Calm McDonough. Tumbleweed. Forbes List or Bust. What's up? Yoon 8 is here. Swigman, what's up, First Hawk? Matt Krim, we got Home Toast. What's up, Tinch? Jennifer Jane, Tammy F. What's up, Gate Watchers? Beth Meese, Dennis Korb, Tony Yates, Christy Medlock, Adam Kenny, Nank is here. Sean Lively shouting out. What's up, Colt 45, Tia Tay, Steph K. What's up, Trevs? We got the Batman is here. Blake Rackley, Two Toe Joe, Matt F. Ting, X Army Drills, Farrah Day, Mama Cat, Melissa G, Crook Hater, Grump 80, CL Museum, JJ. What's up, DK? Celady. We got AF Hall, Clyra, Per Kayla, and Mason. What's up, Learning the Law is here. No and no, all joined up, courtesy of Mock Schnell. More Speed is here with a comment too. Rob, as I always say, you do such a great job on all this. I love the watchers and you. We love you back, Mock Schnell. Really, thank you. Thus, why I enjoy bringing more membos to the morning stream. The Lord bless me so I can pass the blessings on. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. It's a real nice thing to do. People really appreciate it, and we get to see it in the members' streams in the morning. So, Mock Schnell, thanks for doing that. And a lot of people can't afford it. So it's a real generous thing to do. And we're excited to meet 50 new membos tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing it. Hey, C. Beck, watch MAGA take out liberals. I don't know what this is, but looks like a dump truck. So I don't know what that is. We'll just leave that one alone. But thanks for the flag and the dono. Steel Manning, can judges be punished for not treating the government in good faith or giving them due deference? I mean, punished, maybe reversed. But what do they care? Like, they're on political missions, so they don't really care. But yeah, I mean, there's actually legal concepts on this. It's called like the presumption of normalcy, or there's some phrase for this, presumption of, validity, good faith deference. Even Trump referenced this in his appeal to the Supreme Court. Like, the branches are not supposed to go looking for conflicts. The court is supposed to work with the executive branch, not be in opposition to them. Sportfish, what's up? By the law, like that's a law. It's a principle of law, right? We're there's operating with comedy amongst each other. Sportfish, did you read or cover the story of the Tim Walz aide that got caught vandalizing the Lexus car? You mean the Tesla cars? They announced no jail time for him. We didn't cover it, but I did see the story. He's getting diversion, right? So a slap on the wrist. I think he keyed multiple cars, allegedly. Yeah. And that was what? In Minnesota? That's nice. A terroristic activity off with diversion. No J6ers got that, did they? Chubby, what's up? Wait, doesn't the judge labeling it as a lawless seizure demonstrate undeniable bias and prejudgment? Yeah. And she also hasn't read the record or any of the MS-13 evidence. Just look at the other cases, Judge. Says, sounds like she's already come to a conclusion on the entire case. I hope the DOJ files for a recusal, quoting that, not that rhymes with, that Zenus would actually follow the law and practice proper ethics and recuse herself. Yeah, she's not going to do that, but obviously she should. Many of them have clear biases and they're just ranting, frothing mad, and it's showing up in their opinions. Inappropriate. Pinochet says, Rob, the judge knows exactly what is in the record. That's right. I guess you're right. She doesn't even know what's in the record. Yes, she does. She doesn't care what's in the record. It's probably more accurate. Thank you, Pinochet. And they're using her as cover, by the way. Like, a lot of these people are referencing her orders and saying, there's no evidence of MS-13. Look what a federal judge said. She didn't read the record or chose to voluntarily exclude it from the analysis so that she could continue to provide cover to her team. Knox is here. Hey, happy Tuesday, all. Tim Pool in his trademark beanie in the White House press room. Outstanding. Shout out to Tim Pool representing in the White House. Pretty cool. Sheila Poo says, now the lawyer is free. We pay their fees with our tax dollars and we don't want them here. Yeah, and I don't know who is paying for the pro bono lawyers or the ACLU lawyers. That's what I was asking. Do they have any USAID money? Do they have any contracts? Do they have any, represent indigent, whatever? Like, we represent indigent Americans, and these canceled, all of them. Trump should cancel, and issue a same order like he has for these other law firms with the ACLU. Enough of them. My whole life, they've been doing garbage my whole life. Steel Manning, is there anything that isn't irreparable harm? Well, I mean, if Trump does it, it's irreparable harm. No matter what he does, it's irreparable harm to somebody on their side. And they'll find it, right? That's the law. You can always find what you want to find and just make it up. And yeah, for them, I mean, you can make the argument that it is irreparable harm for them. Like, if they're afuered out of here, they're not coming back. It's an irreparable benefit for us But yeah, it's a harm for them. And the judges side with the gangbangers for whatever reason. Hey, MJ Powell, 12 months as a membo. Happy anniversary to us, MJ. Says, hello, Robert. Happy Taco and Papusa Tuesday to all the watchers. Just a quick reminder that I've been in the house for longer than 12 months, but YouTube, you know, if your card changes numbers or something, YouTube can be a-hole. Says, Robert, good to know you are well, and a big hello to K-Bean. We love K-Bean. Mom, the fort down for us, clipping things for us, being just amazing all around. Thank you, MJ Powell, for doing that. And shout out to K-Bean. What's up, Mock Speed? Mock Schnell is here. More speed with 50 more membos. Mock Schnell, you're such a generous gifter today. What's up? Element 47 coming in. Kimmy Rodriguez. We got Carol B. What's up, Kent Kearney? Teresa Kaufman, nurse, not lawyer, is here. Barbara Langdon. We got Linda Diaz. Chris C. What's up, Harry Thomas? Jim Naughton. D. Walt is here. Bobby D. Leon. Annie Time. Brandy Clifton. What's up, Philip Kraft? What's up, Jim Squat? Dixie Willow. Manzano Lane. Brayer Rabbit. Chair Lady. I Loves Chicken. Barbara Langdon. We got Vapor Valley. Fed Up Patriot is here. A True Queen Benting. Joshua Edenfield. Cindy Sunberg. Roland Tammings. Petra L. What's up, David Sims? Thomas Ohaka. John Gentile. We got Jeffrey Fidley. FNU LNU. Sonny Finnell. Tumbleweed Weed. Mark Smith. Itchy Brain. Caleb. Robert Kennedy is here. Julius, taxpayer. What's up, official Muse enabler? Scooby Jew is here. What's up, Mike French? Sam Watson, Renee Riffle, Hetty Hart. What's up, Mike Conger? And Tina R. Gifted membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Mock Schnell, thanks for doing that. And 50 new friends. We'll see you tomorrow, along with the other 50 new friends and more. Tomorrow on the Membo stream, 12 noon Eastern. We'll see you there. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for bringing in more friends. Sev Russ is here. What's going on? Sev Russ says, Judge Zenus, by her leftist behavior, cannot be called the bee's knees since Judge Zenus is acting like a insert comment here. She cannot be called the bee's knees. No. She's acting like a very bad judge is what she's acting like. Thank you, Sev Russ. Sandy, you know, this puts things in perspective. The invasion proclamation only includes TDA from Venezuela. Invasion can be the only word used to describe almost 600,000 people who are mostly fighting age men pouring into our country, bringing a weapon known to kill 100,000 Americans a year. Yeah. Julie Kelly shared that one. Says, this is what the ACLU and some federal judges, including Charlotte Sweeney, claim is not an invasion. Yeah. Oh, it's an invasion. We're dying. Americans are dying all over the place, courtesy of them, but they just don't care. 20 more membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Mock Schnell, thanks for bringing in even more membos. Look who's coming in. We got Dixie Hart. What's up, Regina Mansell? Rome 13. Miss Mindersu. Jason Jensen. Ahava. Chrissa. What's up, Jennifer Devine? Maine Miss Smith is here. David Lindsay. Luke Smart. What's up, Solistic Glow? Gabby Hayes. Hecklefish Fear of the Crab Cat. We got Dragon Emperor. Uncle Zed. Chuck S. Epic Summers. D. Nailer Etem. And Kara, gifted membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Mock Schnell, thank you again for bringing in so many membos today. We appreciate you. Knox Bierman says, here's a great take on the New Mexico judge that had an MS-13 dude living in his casita, complete with the state's response. Thank you for that. Yeah, we might want to cover that one. Maybe we'll hit that tomorrow on the membos only stream. I was looking for some more documents on this one. But yeah, gangbanging judge. Doing some gangbanging in his casita. Yikes. JC Steck in the house. What's up? 2 months as a membo. Great people here. No doubt about it, JC. And greater now that you're joining us. 2 months as a membo. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. Thanks for being here. One old guy's opinions says they are negating all the list of lawyers and resource IAs while getting their due process under the INA. All these foolish proceedings will create case law that governs the INA proceedings too. From one old guy's opinions. Yeah, the resources illegal aliens are getting under the INA. Good to see you, one old guy. Thank you for that. Tina J. Dallas says, okay, so if a Hamas person or a Taliban person or a Houthi or a Ukrainian Nazi were found here, they would not be allowed to be called alien enemies? Alien means not a citizen. Yeah, well, it's a great question. I don't know. I don't know what they would say. I mean, I think a lot of these lower level judges would say no. Well, actually, with the I don't know what they would say. Are we at war with Russia? I mean, what are we doing with Russians? Like, how can all of these acts go against the Russians? Are we deporting Russians or canceling Russian visas? Did Biden do any of those things? I don't know. Great questions. But that's going to be their angle of attack. Jennifer says, hey, off-label podcast tonight after the show. Okay, if it's on YouTube, maybe we can see if we can send people over there. Off-label podcast. So fire up that stream because we'll send them over. Steel Manning, what's up? Congress should dissolve the courts and start over. That would be a pretty big deal, wouldn't it? If we start over, that's where we start to get into problems too. What happens then? But I understand your point, Steel Manning. It is frustrating. Spuds is here. What's up, Spuds? Essentially, a moderate district court in Syracuse has given the thumbs up to grooming. Skinny Antilles is where Joe Biden's first wife was from. It is loaded with leftists too wealthy from Planet Ithaca. Yeah, New York federal court rules schools can secretly social transition kids. What they're doing to the kids is just disgusting. Wild. Sheila Poo, I say ship them out and forget what these lower level courts say. Just put them on the planes and afuera them out of there. What's up, Kelly C? 10 months as a member. Thank you, Kelly C. That's a baby and +1. Thank you for breaking it down. Thank you, Kelly C, for being a member here for 12 months. How nice. 10 months. How nice to have you. Former says, Rob, just a simple question. Why are we bothering with AEA when they can be removed from the USA just for being an illegal alien? Just use the least restrictive law that is on the books, just saying. Well, the Alien Enemies Act overrides the withholding. So withholding, a lot of them are claiming withholding. And judges are saying, oh, you can't remove them because of pupusas. So it overrides the pupusa defense. AEA overrides pupusa defense. So that's why. Otherwise, the withholding order needs to be challenged and overruled and all the things. Sandy, the SCOTUS error in the stay should be a lesson to all. Cherish your rights and defend them. After only 8 hours and no info other than the ACLU request, SCOTUS stole Article 2 powers like a thief in the night. Yeah. They have since had over 70 hours with info depicting their error. They have not yet reversed it. Once you lose your rights, it's hard to get them back. So you have to defend them from being stolen. Amen to that. Sandy, great comment. That's why we're here. That's why you're here. Because we're defending them openly and having this conversation to hold the line. Thanks for joining us. Philip Butler, SCOTUS wants to rule the Alien Enemies Act unconstitutional. I think that's a real threat. I think that's a real threat. And they haven't had like a good opportunity to do that. There was some repudiation of the Korematsu case, and then they mentioned it in a footnote in the Fair Harvard admissions case. Like, I think Roberts is chomping at the bit to declare that act unconstitutional. If he comes out and declares it unconstitutional, I would not be surprised, to be honest with you. Sandy, I would be disgusted, but I would not be surprised. Sandy, these 27 TDA RICO cases are going to have their cases sabotaged by the same judges. We have to remove these judges before we can have fair prosecutions. From Sandy, they certainly are mucking up the processes, not in the interest of justice, but in the interest of themselves. Spuds, Rob, what about Pancho Villa? He didn't represent the country of Mexico. In fact, he was a rebel who invaded a New Mexican town. Has this not been a precedent when dealing with terrorists? I don't know. Did they invoke the Alien Enemies Act to deal with that, like to deport people or anything? That's the question. Like, when was the Alien Enemies Act used historically, and how was it used? And was it used only because you're trying to now draw an analogy or comparison between MS-13 and TREN as non-nation state entities and other prior acts where it has been used? FDR, I think, is a good example of that. He used it broadly, massive orders, even went after citizens. You could also talk, due process, right? Like, where were the ACLU lawyers fighting for Americans detained overseas in Ukraine? They weren't really. Or where were they screaming when Barack Obama drone struck an American citizen and killed him without a single court proceeding at all? No due process at all. Nobody said kill, approve. You're right. You can execute that person. No one. But they did it. And now they're screaming about due process. It's a joke. James Vickery, what's up, James? Rob is a true patriot. Right back at you, James. Thanks for saying that. I do appreciate it. Says, thank you for being a freedom warrior and for giving us an accurate analysis of the news of the day and the important cases. James, it's absolutely an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to spend the time going through this stuff together. I learn a lot from you, and it's a beautiful thing that we're doing. I think that we're making an impact, and it's a real honor to be making history with you. Thank you, James, for supporting us. 1776 is the dono. Zone Girl, where are they concerned about Constitution and American rights with the J6ers? Was there even one Democrat? No. No, they called due process having trials in a district that voted 94% for Kamala Harris. They called that fair due process under the law. Or peaceful free speech in front of colleges or in front of an abortion mill. Go on and speak up for the illegals and the gang members who are a blight on the nation. They are. Yeah, many of them are doubling down on it, and we support it. We support them nominating Jasmine Crockett, too. Mizzy M, these judges are disgusting, but I'd rather have them called out than not know. Who knew these countries had so many bad people in robes? From Mizzy M. Yeah, I think that there is a silver lining to that. Like, this is kind of exposing all of it. As frustrating as it is, it's like, you know, when you pour, it's like when you pour hydrogen peroxide on a wound and you see it bubbling up and you're just like, oh, get it. It hurts, it stings a little bit, but you're like, just get it out. Pour some more. Yes, get rid of that infection. You know that? It's kind of what we're going through right now. So it's a little bit painful. It's a little disgusting. We don't like to be cut and injured so deeply, but we've got to root out the infection. Zena Xavier. Hey, Zena, thanks for being here for 25 months. That is amazing. That's a long time. We've been through some serious stuff together. Hey, miss lives a lot. Going strong, Rob. You're the man. Zena, thanks for hanging with us. Even if you're not joining us live, thanks for supporting us, and being here for so long. Coming up on 3 babies. Fred Pedamonte. Hey, I hired an attorney to help with my eviction case. That's great news, Fred. Great news. Hopefully they can help you and get that solved so you can stay put. Thanks for the update. Brain Socks, what's up? Tattoos equals unaliving someone. Oh, if you get a tattoo of the gang, right? It's kind of like a rite of passage. It's a memento for your murder. Nice. Hey, great show. A little support. Thank you, Brain Socks. Thanks for watching on Rumble and supporting us over there. Lady Shar Reacts. Sounds like a nice channel. Thanks for signing up as a supporter, Lady Shar. Hold Me Tighter. Also joining up, also sending in a dono. Thank you, Hold Me Tighter in the house. What's up, Victo? Victo5. 5 months as a member. Victo5 in the house. Thank you for being here for 5 months. Amazing. Deplorable One. What happens if Ukele locks up some Dems as MS-13? Well, I don't know. Are they illegal gangbangers? If he does, then he'll be a hero. What's up? Rub some dirt on it. Hey, starting to collect some Watching the Watchers swag. Yeah, rub some dirt on it. This is a cool patch. Rub some dirt on it, aka Whirlpool Galaxy is his nickname. Says rub some dirt on it. Says everything stops bleeding eventually. It's true. It's a good fact. Yeah, it's true. I mean, either it like coagulates and you get a scar, or you just bleed out and die. So either way, it stops. Don't worry about it. Just relax. SD Gold Star Mom sent us a rhubarb jam, and it has not been delivered through no fault of her own. Probably my fault or the post office. But I should have gotten it, and I haven't gotten it. It's really disappointing. Says, my rhubarb patch has expanded to 23 plants. Was thinking of you when dividing and transplanting. Great shows today. Have a great evening. Thank you, SD Gold Star Mom. And thank you for sending me the rhubarb that I have not gotten. I do think about it often, and I wish I had it. One day, we will try your amazing rhubarb jam. Thank you, SD, for the update. 23 plants is amazing. Jennifer O'Connell, what's up, Jennifer O'Connell? 5 months as a member, says, thank God, chat with me. So happy he's home. Shouting out the return of the nephew who made his way back. Amazing. Hey, Lenny Malley, thanks for liking this video. Thanks for sharing it. Thanks for inviting a friend or family to come on over here. Thanks for sharing a link to the show. Just say, hey, this lawyer dude is like ordering me to invite you to the channel. You can blame me. I take full responsibility. Veronica King, The Constitution doesn't apply to non-citizens, correct? It does. I mean, it does. The question is in what capacity. So like things like due process, it's a hard thing to answer. I would say it does apply, but in limited fashion, right? So like due process for an American citizen is different than a non-citizen. Like you don't get access to the Article 3 courts in the same way that a citizen does if you're an illegal. So it's not inapplicable, right? Like you can't, if an illegal comes in, you can't just like execute them or something, right? They've got rights in the country because we are humanitarian. So there are procedural rights for them, but they're different and distinct, I would say, in certain contexts than other citizens. Larry Edge, what's up, Larry Edge? Thank you for becoming a supporter. And we'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. What's up, Harold Greer? It's a nice cat here, Greer cat. Harold, thanks for bringing in 5 membos. Look what we've got here. Daily Donkey Salty Dabs, welcome. Macart Studio Creating with Purpose, welcome. Karen is my name, NV Cruiser, and Patricia Clark, all gifted membos courtesy of Greer. Harold in the house. We got Sharpie Guy says, dang Rob, between Mock Schnell and Clark and my 5 gifted membos 5 months ago are dwarfed. Mac and Clark, thank you for bringing Rob to the mostest. Love you, watchers. We appreciate all gifted membos, whether it's 1, 50, or whatever the number is. We're just grateful. We appreciate you just being here. Thank you, Sharpie Guy. Cardinal O'Flanagan saying these judges are acting with enough cheek. Jesus and all 12 apostles couldn't turn it. Happy belated Easter. Happy belated Easter to you, Cardinal O'Flanagan. Cardinal O'Flanagan in the house. Yeah, it's a lot. Jesus could probably handle it, but Jesus is, well, he's the Son of God, so he can do it. But I don't know if I could. What's up, Content of Character? Thank you for becoming a member, Content of Character. Great to see you. Deluxe Knight is here. Hey, welcome to all the new membos. Yeah, those donations are freaking awesome from Farmer Deluxe Knight. Hey, how close are we to 500K members, Rob? 500K members? A long ways away. P.S. Happy Taco Tuesday, watcher fam. So subs, I think we're getting close. I don't know what the final number is, but if you haven't subscribed yet, we'd really appreciate it. Says, hey, hope you all have a delicious and beautiful meal this evening. Courtesy of Farmer Deluxe Knight 1981 in the house. Thank you, Deluxe Knight, and have a great meal yourself. Thanks for feeding us all of our food. This old guy says, the Constitution prohibits reducing district judges' salaries, but it doesn't specifically address the expenses of their office. Time for Congress to remove all the copy equipment and subscriptions to legal services for research. Yeah, no, I agree. No toner for the printers so they can't spit out their garbage crap opinions, Remove the computers and give them electric typewriters and fountain pens and notebook paper. Yeah, if they want to write a disgusting screed, then they can write it with a fountain pen. Good luck. Hey, Tortuga Chica is here, bringing in 10 membos. Thank you, Tortuga. Look who's coming in. Ion Energy. What's up, Daniel Hobbs? Polyphos. We got Teresa Shirk. Storytime with Knuckles. D Watts is here. Erroneous One. Lorraine Goss. What's up, Paul Bubak? We got Tango Romeo and Zach Roth. Gifted membos courtesy of Tortuga Chica. Thank you, Tortuga Chica, for bringing in 10 new membo friends. We appreciate you doing that. 127 Gold says, do you have an update on Garrett Ziegler's lawsuit with Hunter Biden? No, not really. Did Hunter drop it since he's now broke? Great show as always. Yeah, I think so. I think he did. He filed a request to dismiss it, but I don't think Garrett is letting them off so easily. I think they're going after attorney's fees and some other things. I don't have an educated update on that 127 Gold, but shout out to our friend Garrett Ziegler. He, of course, is the purveyor of the report on the Biden laptop right there. And you should grab your copy. Check out MarcoPoloUSA.org, Biden report, Biden laptop, whatever the reports are. Marco Polo crew, those dudes are awesome. So I don't have a good update, but check out his X account too. He's got good updates, and we're certainly due for another convo with Garrett. He's awesome. Content of Character. Hey, Rob, who do I have to bribe to get you and Branca on a stream together? I would absolutely talk with Branca or hang. I think that, the thing is we're we're on a track here. You know, we're streaming, baby. We got stuff to cover. So from my perspective, it's just about time, right? How do we squeeze it in and make it work? But I think Andrew's great. Yeah, I'd love to have a stream with him. I think I saw him on today with Ricada, right? Covering the Karen Reed trial. I saw Good Logic also doing that too. So certainly it'd be good to talk to some more people. What's up, Nevada? We just got to find the time to do it. There's so much to cover. What's up, Nevada Legion? Do all grand juries and indictments for former Biden administration need to take place in DC? If it were the case, the results and the verdicts seem to be predetermined with communist judges. Yeah, so generally criminal charges are geographically based. So where did the crime occur? Which is like what we saw with Trump, right? The DC case was the January 6th case, which is where the speech took place in Washington, and the classified documents case was brought in Florida with Judge Cannon. So it's where you can find it. So if you could find that there was criminality outside of DC, like if Liz Cheney was committing criminality in Wyoming or Benny Thompson, wherever he's from, right? All of these places, then maybe you could find criminality there. But a lot of the crimes happen in DC, which is why it's such a problem. Thank you, Nevada Legion, for watching on Rumble and for the nice dono. It's a question, where can you find the crimes? That would be it. Chat with me. Anyone surprised to read this as a judicial ruling? Breaking news. Judge rules all jails across the nation to be closed by 5 p.m. Jails are to be converted into children's homes birth, minus 5 years old, where children will have daily story time with drag queens and strippers. Okay. Yeah. An injunction. You have to get your child breast implants ordered by Judge Amy Berman Jackson from DC. Got it. Darla Shumate. What's up, Darla? Thank you for becoming a member and signing up to support us. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. You're amazing, Darla. Sandy says, invocation of the AEA is not reviewable. It would be hard to rule a statute on the book since 1798 and use 3 times is unconstitutional. The times to do that came and went 3 times: the British invasion, World War I, and World War II. Yeah, and FDR used the hell out of it. Darla Shumate. Hey, Darla. Thank you for upgrading your membership, supporting us even harder than before. We're grateful for you. See you tomorrow. What's up, Nevada Legion? Do I have to refer to communists as leftists? Thanks, Rob. Great as always. Well, I think when you boil it all down, like the lowest common denominator from all these people is that they're just communists. They don't want to admit it for some reason. I don't know why. Like, just own it. Like, if you're just a communist, just own it. Don't call yourself an environmentalist or, like a trans activist or any of these things. You're just a communist through and through. So just say it. They have to dress it up with something like progressivism or, we're whatever, Black Lives Matter. Call it whatever you want. They're all just at the root. When you strip it all away, they're just communists. That's it. So do I have to? Yes, you do. Just call them communists. Yeah. Or call them whatever you want, just as long as we have the understanding they're all communists. Hey, it's MJ Party. Thanks again for the donos, Nevada Legion. Good to see you on the Rumbles. What's up, MJ Party? It's Michael Jackson. What's up, MJ? Bringing in 20 new Membo friends. Thank you, MJ, for doing this. Naughty Pirate is here. Dana Williams. We got Tyler Harden, Van Liberty, Jeff Loves the Truth, Ashes of Angst, Billy Norden. What's up, Happy Mac, Cottage Farm, Judy Gray, Kiner. What's up, Sean Tilden, Kelt, Joe Cool, Old Man JM, Debbie Boost, B. Katrina's here. We got Terry Pratt, Dean Hughes, and Ted Park, all gifted membos, joining us and having a good time as membos. One old guy's opinion says all bills proposed by Congress need to pass a constitutional test. The INA and the U.S. Code have passed that test, even at SCOTUS's past rulings. They will overturn all law and rulings. Don't be surprised. SCOTUS will. From one old guy's opinions. You think SCOTUS is going to overturn those things? Yeah, I don't know. I think SCOTUS is more likely to overturn the Alien Enemies Act. I feel like John Roberts is just chomping at the bit to do that and make a big statement for some reason. I don't know why. I hope he doesn't, but we'll see. My friends, thank you for sending in all of those amazing donos and for supporting our work here. Very generous of you to do that. Welcome to new members. Thanks to everybody who bought and invited. Amazing amounts of new members. We can't wait to see everybody tomorrow. Let's also say hello to our friends on X. before we go over to locals and hang out for a little bit. Look at this cute kitty, says George says. She can't take it anymore, Rob. She barely made it to the second segment. Get rid of these judges. I can't take it anymore. That poor kid. Hang in there, kitty. We're going to be victorious. Don't be afraid. Muriel says, does the judge think the DC gulag is comfortable? From what I hear, it doesn't even meet Geneva Conventions. Plenty of citizens were incarcerated there. Yeah, how about the J6ers who were thrown into solitary? Peter, what's up, says, these Democrats have to learn that they are not the adults, nor are they in charge. Lisa Ann, free lawyers? That's BS. Yeah, nice big fat list of them, of the free lawyers over for the gangbangers. What's going on, Norma Smith? Great to see you, Norma Smith. We got Richard, says, do you get the feeling these gangsters are the organized crime wing of the Democrats? A judge had one at his house. The heck is this? Yeah, that's why we were wondering why CIA mama's boy, Chris Van Hollen, was doing down there, making it his giant pitch. B. Torn, look at the disgust on the faces of the press pool. Tim got questions and angered everybody else. Good. He deserved them. ACLU, what's up? James Pepper says they're doing this for the money. And Minnie Tika, what's up? Saying thank you for sharing the Rumble link over on X. Thanks for doing that, Minnie Tika. Okay, so my friends, that is where we're going to leave it on the day. It has been a beautiful Tuesday. Happy Taco and Papusa Tuesday. Of course, we're coming back tomorrow. We're going to get into it again. Before we round it out on the day, let's say thank you and what's up to our mods and our meme smiths who are modding the fort down for us and keeping things nice and beautiful and orderly. We got K Bean in the house. Donut Mind Me. What's up, Carrie B? Playing hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek helping to keep things nice and orderly around here. Giga memes it up for us. Elliot, Doc Master, and of course, Just Rhonda, our purveyor of fine emojis. My friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. Thank you so much for all your support today. One old guy says Miranda warning applies to any arrest. From one old guy, applies to any arrest. And so thank you, one old guy, for sending that one in. And so, my friends, that's where we'll leave it on the day. It has been a beautiful stream. Of course, we're going to pause there for the evening, but we're coming back tomorrow and we're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.